Kayak fans, what's going on? Hope everybody is having a wonderful night. Hope you got your logs all split and ready for the fireplace because, buddy, we are going to be needing some warmth in our homes here very, very soon. So, I'd like to take just a brief moment and thank all of our amazing sponsors that help make our Hooked Up Live shows possible. From Dugout Bait and Tackle, Line Taming Serum, Tiny Boat Nation, Outdoors, Star Lures, G2 Gemini Jerseys, PFD Fishing, as well as Just Catch Bass. That is a new company. Go back to the very beginning of this video at the scroll line at the bottom. Check out the Just Catch Bass. I'm going to take and also make a announcement about the company Just Catch Bass. They make some lures and different stuff like that. I'll make sure at the end of the show tonight to mention what we've got planned and in store with them. So appreciate each and every one. Tonight we have got, again, our crew from the shop store there at Tiny Boat Nation Southeast. I'm always going to say shop. Sorry, guys.
Shop store. Store shop.
I mean, it is a shop store. Got the shop in the back and the store out front.
Right, both of them are here.
That's right. That's right. So tonight we have got our points champion. Aaron, I believe, had some other items going on, wasn't able to attend it, but we've got Chris Gayton from Electric Bass Opens that we're going to be interviewing. And congratulations, Chris, on points champion for Electric Bass Open.
Thank you, Merrick. I appreciate that. Hey, guys. How are y'all?
How's it going?
Good.
And then we have another special guest, and I kind of wanted to blend this one in together because, Chris, I know I'm going to keep referring to you as Gayton because we got two Chris's in here, Chris Simmons and Chris Gayton. So, Gayton, I know you wound up having a upgrade on your boat and thought it would be a good blend. We have Blake Yarder, pro staff, through with E-Propulsion.
Yes, sir.
Actually, you know what? Technically, and I ain't thought about it like this. We have two half reigning state champions from the TEC on with us as well.
Yeah.
So let's hear a little bit, Gayton, talking about y'all's season with EBO. Do you have some moments that kind of you felt like was monumental in y'all's season?
Man, so we did, and it really probably the most monumental tournament of the year was our classic. Actually, it was the last tournament of the year. We were fishing at Latham, and probably, well, the first day I'd spoke to Ryan and Thomas and Ryan, another team that's great all the way around. And they was running to an area we wanted to fish, so we kind of let them go there, and we was able. After the first day, we were sitting in second place, able to put together a decent limit. The second day, they were running back to the same place, and it was just a timing deal for that tournament, which was just November, middle of November. We went, they fished that area, left it. We went up lake probably around noon, and actually went up towards the waterfall at Latham, for those of you that have fished that lake, and seen Thomas and Ryan there. So we come back out of there and went to another spot, and we just pulled up at the right time, right place. We caught, at that time, we had about 9 pounds, and I think we ended up with 14 pounds pretty quickly. It was within an hour and a half. We just had to wait on the fish to push bait up, and when the fish would push bait up, we could catch them. Otherwise, they just was not feeding. So that was probably the most memorable EBO tournament of the year for us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I do want to touch on something right off the rip that I think is it's very unique. We talked about in our last show last week that we'd done about kind of an OG boat from Tiny Boat Nation, and And I kind of feel like the same thing from your boat that you fished out of, Gayton, is it's an OG.
Yep.
It's been around in the different clubs. Originated through with Russ, if I remember.
Yep. That's right.
So go through, tell us about your boat, your setup, everything you're running, stuff like that.
So Russ and Aaron actually worked together and built the boat. I'm not sure what year that was, but Dusty.
Sorry, I had to throw it in there.
Dusty, I hope you're doing good, buddy. But they built the boat. It's an 1860. It actually measures 19 feet. It's a huge boat, but it rides really high in the water. So I bought the boat. Had 3 trolling motors and a small graph from Aaron 3 years ago now. Did a little bit of work to it. Replaced some carpet. Replaced all the batteries, put all lithium batteries, have the e-propulsion battery pack in the back running the e-propulsion the Navy 6.0. And then on the front, I've got the Lowrance Ghost. I'm currently running it 24 volt. I just, with the electric outboard, there's no need to have 36 volts that I've ran into yet. Did some live well upgrades, and then also got a HDS 9 live on the front for my mapping, and 1222 Garmin for the forward-facing sonar.
And I don't know if you watched the first show, we did talk about it. The forward-facing sonar's banned, I think, from the TEC in February. Everybody knows that, right?
I'll just stand on the bank.
I'm just kidding. So you brought up something. I can't remember what it was. If I remember right, there was issues you was having, or maybe it originated back with Russ with the live well on that one. Was there problems with it or something?
Yeah, so I know that they had some live well issues early on. Basically, we just put Aaron and myself put a new system in the boat, just replaced it, put all new parts, and then also big shout out to Aaron. I was trying to I'd actually just went through back surgery, and Aaron was over here. We put a bottom coat on the boat. Kerry Bell, my buddy up at 400 Inc., he put a wrap on the boat for me. And then all of this while I was recovering from back surgery. Aaron and another friend of mine, Kenneth, come over and set the 160-pound battery in the back. It's a lithium battery, but it's it's a self-contained battery pack, and they set it down in the boat for me. And against my wife's will and probably my better judgment, we went to Latham the same day and ran the boat as hard as we could run it for as long as we could run it.
You are running the E175?
Yes, E175
Awesome.
Battery pack, and man, so the first day, I mean, of course, the boat was empty. We ran it. We took off the boat ramp. We ran up. For those of you that are familiar with Latham, we run up to the waterfall and back to the boat ramp 3 times. Went back up, ran around the island, come back down, run down the pocket where the marina is, come back out and run up in the pocket across from the boat ramp. Come back out and still had about 20% battery whenever we decided to. Well, it was getting close for the time to gate to close, but man, it's really been a game changer for us. I know last year we didn't. I don't know that we fished a full season with a club that would have allowed, that we would have got into the TEC, but we fished the year before that. I was still running trolling motors, and we got all the way up the right arm at hard labor and lost a trolling motor all the way up the right arm. So we had to leave that area pretty quickly and start, fishing our way back. But man, that electric outboard has been a game changer for sure.
So take a moment. Anybody has any questions along the way, feel free, fire them away. Be more than glad to take and put them out there. So You talking about the live well, kind of going back to this, and I hate to keep like asking it because I'm curious on it a little bit. Did you have problems with like airlock in it or something, or?
No, it was just so when I got it, I didn't have any of those issues. I think when Russ and Aaron first built it, they were having some issues with that. We changed up the lids, put a little insulation on top. We put the seafoam under the lids and on top of the lids, give it a little bit more insulation. And then we're running a TH Marine system in it. And we haven't had any issues this year. Of course, you're going to have, a couple fish a year where you hook them deep or they eat a top water bait. And, there's no avoiding that. But as far as just losing fish, man, we've been blessed with that as well. We haven't had any issues. So,
yeah. And that was when that boat was built of yours, when Russ had done it. And I wanted to ask this, and I don't know if you remember it or not. Do you still have the original carpet in the boat?
So about 90% of it's original. So it's still it's still singed.
Okay. Literally, I always remember that story from Russ. Russ said when he was putting down the carpet, he was in his garage. He was using the aerosol can, I believe it was, of the adhesive glue. And he said he don't know what happened. It just ignited. And like his whole body, I don't remember what degree burns that he got, but it was bad. He had to run, got in the shower. But you could see his body figure in the carpet where it literally like singed around his shape of his body.
Yeah. So it's still on the rod lockers on both sides of the open space in the floor. It's still pretty rough there. The rest of it's pretty much worn off, but
you can't really notice it. But I wouldn't bring it up for that. I'm just conversation piece because I know that was that's an awesome boat. I fished with you for Gayton. It really is of all the boats I've ever been in for electric stuff. It's probably one of the most unique ones, especially for that time. I mean, that was not a common thing around here, seeing built like that, was it?
Yeah. I mean, it's huge too. I don't know. It'd be hard for me to, and I fished out of the bass tracker that Mike and I built for a couple of years, and it's just, I don't know. It's big, a lot of room, a lot of space, and it still moves pretty good to be such a big boat and so heavy. A lot of aluminum in it. It moves pretty good. Blake, he's a little faster than I am, but he slowly pulls away from me, but we're pretty close.
That's awesome. Mr. Simmons, you got questions? I know you do.
I always got questions. So you came from what trolling motor and graph setup did you come from before your Ghost?
So I had the on this boat I had the Minn Kota 4-Trex, and on my previous boat, that's what I bought this one with. On my previous boat, I had an Ultrex. I've always ran Lowrance electronics. That's been something I've been comfortable with. Taylor actually talked me into buying a Garmin, and I started out with a 9-inch, the UHD 9, and got the forward-facing sonar. Loved it. It served a great purpose. But year before last, I upgraded to the 1222, and just the detail, and that's the main reason. Just to go to a bigger graph, you just get more megapixels on the screen, and you can get a lot more detail. I mean, you can really zoom in. Anything, if you're looking out to 40 feet and you're crappie fishing, and you're watching that 30-second ounce jig fall to them, you can actually see the fish, the body movement of the fish coming up to eat. It's a game changer for sure. I know it's, it's old news. Everybody's talked about it, but it's, I don't know. It changes the way you fish. For me, it did. The hardest thing with that is learning when to leave. it can help you and it can hurt you. You can see fish that you would have never seen before, but you can also hurt yourself spending too much time, on a group of fish that's just not gonna fire, not gonna eat.
How are you liking the ghost so far?
I'm liking it. So, me and Merrick actually had this conversation a couple weeks ago. I love the trolling motor. For me, all of these trolling motors, and I think it's becoming more apparent as you're seeing more people with forward-facing sonar and nicer trolling motors on front. I think the motor-driven trolling motors, I believe you have to use them smartly. You have to stay as far from the fish as you can and make those casts. Just because I think the closer that you get, that these fish are becoming more and more conditioned just to the motor drive. I mean, when you're turning it back and forth, or you have to turn it really slowly. You turn it really quickly back and forth, and you get that high pitch whine of the motor and the head of that trolling motor spinning the head, the drive head below the surface, and it's fish. We've all done it. We've all been underwater. Everything underwater seems amplified. So I really believe you just see so many fish that are feeding, and now you get close to them and try to find them and throw a bait to them, and it's like they just shut down, even within casting distance.
So I'm curious on your forward-facing sonar. Yeah, I'm sure y'all probably seen enough different YouTubes of different ones out there between the Lowrance, the Garmin. They all have sometimes you'll see that this will have this issue or that one will have that issue. One of the most common ones that I've heard of through with the Garmin's is the ghost or ghost tree effect. Do you have anything like that, like a certain dead area in yours?
I got to find some wood to knock on, but no, I have not. So the biggest thing with that to me is I use the Active Captain app and keeping your electronics up to date too. That's huge.
You got to be a software engineer just to be able to keep these things going, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate. Merrick, you've been here. My boat stays in my basement. I pull it up under my house. I can connect everything to Wi-Fi. So I download, basically using the Garmin Active Captain, download the update to my phone, and then disconnect from my phone from my home Wi-Fi and connect it to my graph Wi-Fi and upload the updates. But it's that's huge. As software outdates itself and stuff, your graph will start to slow down. You'll start to get glitches and stuff, and making sure that those are all up to date and working like it should be is a game changer as well.
So let's talk about something. I want to go this angle for a second for curiosity. You'd mentioned that Blake's just a slight bit faster than you. Tournament fishing. I'm assuming that's with fishing partners in the boat with both of y'all at the same time?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So have y'all noticed in Blake, you've done the same thing. You've converted all total electric in your boat, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So my thought was this, and I'm just kind of picking your brain a little bit on this. Y'all have probably seen the speeds dramatically. I mean, in electric stuff, 1 mile to 2 mile per hour is really a substantial amount. Have y'all seen that to where you go out by yourself, you're 1 to 2 miles per hour faster just by yourselves? What do you think that one extra person? I mean, you wouldn't think that little bit of weight would make that much of a difference, but are y'all seeing that same effect where you're dropping down a couple of miles per hour?
Yeah, I do in mine. If I go by myself, I'm in the 10.5 range. But when I have a partner, I'm down in the 8s, low 8s. So weight does, as we know, make a huge difference for sure.
Yep, I'm same way. I'm high 7s. I can touch 8, and then in the by myself, I'm mid to high 9s. It makes a huge difference. Even your tackle, as much I've started putting together, depending on the time of year and the water clarity and what my game plan is I put together a tackle box for that specific tournament. And then also, just I'll make a little box of, my or my exploration box. Taylor got a bad influence. He is for sure.
Sorry, I just now seen that comment. And if y'all seen my facial reaction looking badly a minute ago, it wasn't because of these comments. There was some inappropriate stuff that was getting posted through one of our channels on through here. So I was trying to block them. So if you see my facial reaction, that's all it was about. So
we had the same results that Blake did when we tested out his boat after we got it done the last time. Me and Ryan took it out and did a bunch of speed testing with him, and we looked like a bunch of idiots running around dancing on the front of the boat and huddled up together, then moved apart, one on the very front, one on the very back. We laid out trying to see if we could get that extra, tenth or more. We got the exact same speeds that Blake's been getting in his boat in a tournament rig, fully loaded out.
Sounds like the co-angler's just going to have to ride in a tube to the first spot.
Tell them to swim, meet you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Mr. Simmons, fire away, sir.
I got a question. So Chris, what is your favorite and least favorite part of tournament fishing besides winning and losing?
Most people that know me, Aaron gets on to me all the time. I talk a lot. So my favorite part of it is just the interaction with different anglers, meeting new people. And, just win, lose, or draw, I like to have a good time. And I'm just as happy to see, someone else take it as I am. I mean, of course, the win, it's always nice, but it's also nice just to see everybody around you having a good time. And that's basically it for me. The least favorite part of that, it's probably just the opposite. When you have those confrontations or when you have, and I've been really fortunate. I've never, as far as any tournament anglers, I've never had any issues with any tournament anglers, but I have had issues with other people just, pulling up on you, just not being courteous. We've had, going back to when me and Mike was fishing together, we've had people come between us and the bank when we're fishing for a specific school of fish. Actually, it was in one of the SWAT tournaments, Eric, over at Hickory Log. We had some guys come through trolling some live bait. We were probably 40 yards off the bank, throwing an underspin, and he was throwing an A-rig, and had some guys troll some live bait right in front of us, and caught like about a 6-pound fish between us and the bank. And I think, that's probably my least favorite part of it. It's just, those bad interactions. But again, my favorite part is just the camaraderie and, standing around after a tournament and talking to everybody in the parking lot or before a tournament. It's always been. What's that?
I said, what about Blake? What's his favorite and least part?
My favorite would probably be, just being competitive, getting to compete. A lot of us played high school sports and we're old and ugly now and can't compete in those sports anymore, but we can fish and compete. And I think some of those driving factors, are just instilled in you and you like to compete. As far as, I guess a bad thing about tournament fishing on these small lakes is just that they're so small that, you're having to share a lot of water and you're having to, everybody can see everything most of the time. And there's really not no privacy. You can get on these big bodies of water like Lanier and Oconee and Hartwell, and, you can kind of get away. and have areas to yourself, maybe all day long. But with the small boat fishing, it's hard to stay hidden.
Both of those would be a close second for me. So
So here's one I was thinking about the other day when we were doing the other live stream. I didn't get a chance to ask it, so I got busy asking other questions. But Chris, tell me about that one tournament that you absolutely just haunts you in your mind every day. That one where you just had a bad day, or you lost the biggest fish you ever seen in your life, or just the longest day ever. Tell me about what was your worst tournament experience ever.
Man, I have a lot of them fishing as a co-angler in the BFL, but I also have a lot of them. I mean, the one fish that haunts me would be the TEC 2 years ago. We were just under the bridge, and man, we had one fish we couldn't get rid of, and small fish, and I had a 6-pounder on a jig. It literally jumped and hit the net. As it jumped out of the water, my jig come out of its mouth. Aaron stuck the net out. The fish hit the net and rolled the other way. Instead of going into the net, she rolled out of the net. And man, I think we finished that. I don't know, Eric, you'd have to pull it back up, but I think fifth place. But it was pretty tight in the top 5. Blake and Charlie won that year. But man, it would have put us right up there really close to them. Depending, half a pound could go a long ways in a fifth. There you go. Dusty's on top of it. So, yeah, I mean, and it was pretty close. It was, that was one that definitely haunted me. I was really wanting to get a, I still don't know if that we would have won it, of course, but it'd have been close.
We'll just make sure in the future, if we go back to hard labor, you qualify for it. We'll make sure to end the day and sit right there at the bridge and get your redemption on that fish and get it on camera. How's that sound?
Man, and yeah, that would be, it'd be nice if it'd work out that way, but it hardly ever does. So.
What about you, Blake? You got a bad day or a bad fish that just haunts you?
I got a lot of them. I don't have one probably specific, but I've got several tournaments where, you lose 2 or 3 fish right at the boat, and you go to net them and they come off. Or me and Dad had one several years ago that half the fish was in the net and half of it was out, and it flopped out. And I think if you do this long enough, you're going to be humbled and you're going to have those experiences, and it's going to happen more than once. The biggest thing you got to do is just mentally kind of put it in the back of your mind and keep grinding, because that very next cast could be another opportunity. A lot of guys make the mistakes of, when that happens, they just shut down. I mean, their day's over. But you always got to stay positive and, be headstrong as far as, and know that coming into it, that no matter what kind of line, no matter what kind of rod and reel, and you can have the best money can buy, and it's still going to happen. I mean, you're in their environment, you're in their world, and, there's just times that things happen that they get the best of you, and you just grin and move on.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a big thing too, and I always, anybody that's ever fished with me is trying to stay positive. I mean, you can spin out really quickly, but you can also, all it takes is pulling up on the right spot. I'll tell you another, I was just thinking back, and that same tournament, I told you we run all the way up the right arm. We got in a little neck down area, and I hooked a fish. I'm trying to think of what kind of bait I hooked it on. Whatever it was a floating bait. But early that morning, and man, I broke off on a hook set, just a bad spot in the line, and me and Aaron sat there for probably 2 hours that morning, and it jumped. It's about 3 times behind us, and finally threw the bait. I was able to get my bait back, but never got the fish, and that was another fish that would have really, helped out. And that was first thing that morning, and it just, there's skill in all of it. There's, but there's a lot of luck in everything, and there's I know, for most of us too. I mean, it's the man upstairs that determines, how things shake out a lot of times. I mean, that's a big part of it too, and staying humble.
So I want to take a pause for a moment. One of the questions that was asked, I know it's not necessarily towards the e-propulsion, but if anybody has an answer to this, running the hot swing motors, and if so, what batteries they're running,
We've
feel
built
free.
a couple boats with them so far. I think the last boat, we just had one leave a couple weeks ago. He was running regular old Walmart 12-volt battery, deep cycle. You can run them on anything. They for the money, I have heard they're pretty good trolling motors. I haven't actually used one, but we had a lot of people showing up with them, and a lot of reviews on YouTube. They're very featureless. They don't have a lot of the features that some of the more high-end trolling motors have, but
that pedal will take up half your front deck.
yeah, the pedal's huge. It is massive, but a lot of people have been using the little remote for it instead of the pedal.
Yeah. If anybody has, they can feel free also chime in, give some comments in here. So I got a question for both of you, man, Blake, Gayton, to deal with the e-propulsion product. So both of y'all prior to, I think Blake, you used to run the old Briggs motor. Let's, from Blake's standpoint, back up further than the Briggs, back when it was trolling motor. Chris, you mentioned he's running trolling motor. What would y'all say is y'all's biggest factor with running the e-propulsion lithium battery packs? What would you say is y'all's biggest factor to helping y'all when competing in these tournaments? Blake, if you want to kind of go first, maybe.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, speed. That always helps to be able to not only from when you blast off to get to an area first, but just getting from point A to point B. A lot of times when you go to your first area, you don't normally catch them at your first stop, but go into your next, second, third, fourth spot, you don't really realize how much time that you save by getting there quickly and being able to fish longer. It could be a matter of minutes when that school of fish bites, and if you're not there during that window, that's the difference between winning and losing.
Because
I've been running the e-propulsion now for a little over 2.5 years, I guess. I run the original version, the Navy, and now I have the Evo. And I would say I like knowing how far I can go. That helps me kind of plan where I'm at, where I can go, how much time I have, back to weigh in. There's several different features with the outboard that I personally like other than just speed. Everybody's speed crazy, and it has its place, but it's not everything when it comes to tournament fishing.
And Gayton, you probably remember, trolling motor days, expanding on a little bit what Blake was talking about when you're bouncing between holes and stuff. When you're running trolling motors, yeah, you're running 5-6 mile an hour consistently, beginning of day to end of day. Do you still see an advantage running between those holes, maybe getting a little bit faster edge than 5-6 mile an hour between spots?
Absolutely. I'll say, everything Blake said, and just so for me too, I'm able to run a lot further. So compared to my trolling motor days, I'm able to cover more water quickly, be more efficient. I'm not burning up my front trolling motor, or, in the trolling motor days, we're standing on the front trolling motor. And another thing that's huge too for me is, I'm all lithium, but just all the weight. I mean, I lost like 500 pounds in my boat going from trolling motor to electric, the outboard. And I'm running the same motor as Blake. I think our battery setup's a little bit different, but lost roughly 500. I think it was actually 560 pounds because I was running 2 trolling motors in the back that were 36 volt, and all gel batteries, and then a 36 volt motor up front, which is 36 volt.
And correct me if I'm right. I mean, we've seen other guys, I think, that's running the e-propulsion product. Y'all both agree. Blake probably touched on this by saying it. The communications that's between the battery packs and the actual, Navy Evo series, the communication it has there to be able to tell you the distances and everything else. That's very critical, especially if you've got a battery pack that's not an e-propulsion battery pack. You're not going to be able to see those digital readouts and know how far you can go.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, that's huge too. I mean, also running the e-propulsion battery pack with the e-propulsion outboard. I mean, I think when you get to 50%, Blake, if I may be wrong on this, but I get a beep, letting me know halfway. Yeah. And then when you get to 25%, I think you get 2 beeps.
So, yeah.
That's another thing.
It notifies. There's not a company out there that's turnkey as far as when you buy the product, you get everything as a kind of a package deal. And, I personally like that because you don't have to, buy another gadget to help complete the package. It all comes together turnkey. And you know exactly what you're getting. You know exactly what it's going to do, what it's doing.
Yep.
So what's the closest you two have ever come to running that battery almost completely dead out during a tournament?
Blake, you want to go?
I've run mine all the way down to 2% one time. It was one of them deals where I wasn't listening and it was beeping and I wasn't paying. I was caught up in the moment, and next thing I know, I was like, "Oh I got to slow this thing way down to make it back to weigh in, and we got to go now." And luckily, there again, if I wouldn't have seen that, I could have run to another spot, and then I may have not would have made it back to weigh in. I mean, it really saved me. So
I got to ask y'all this. Have y'all noticed any issues? One of the biggest issues with lithium, not necessarily e-propulsion, but just lithium batteries in general. Have y'all ran into the issues with cold weather affecting the lithium batteries?
So
we'll find out this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, for sure. So that was the closest I've ever come to running mine completely dead. And I think it was EBO's Classic last year, if I'm not mistaken. We had a really cold night and a cold second day at hard labor. We were staying at a VRBO just down the road. It was 2-day Classic, and I actually charged my batteries up that night, but it was really cold out that night. Heavy frost the next morning, and it was windy all day that day. And we did a lot of running around trying to find, a school to back up what we'd done the first day. Never did get on that, but that was the closest I've ever come to running mine completely dead. And I don't know what the percentage was, but it was less than 10%.
So while we're talking about electric stuff, and I asked the guys this last week, and a pretty good answer, but what is it that got you guys into electric tournament fishing versus all the other different kinds of tournament fishing you could have done?
Gayton, you can go first.
Okay. All right. So for me, I fished the big boat stuff for several years. Fished some BFLs, fished a couple we fished the HD Marines, BFLs, as a boater and a non-boater. And I got out of fishing completely, freshwater fishing for about 6 years, went into saltwater fishing. Did that, duck hunting out west, and that's another deep, dark hole that'll take a lot of money. So both of those are you go from you're spending $600 on one offshore trip just in fuel, and did that for 5-6 years. And actually, I was coming back and going to get back into big lake fishing and buy another bass boat. And a friend of mine actually introduced me to Nick White, which was fishing with Merrick. I went over and met with those guys, and had a friend of mine that had a boat that needed to be fixed up. Motor was blown up. I just took the motor off, and I think we didn't fish, but maybe the last 3 or 4 tournaments of the year that year, with all my tack on a clear storage container on the deck, and all my top water baits and crankbaits blew up from the heat. But that was, I did that, and I really enjoyed it. It's just, I enjoyed the crowd. I enjoyed all the people that we were around and fishing with, and it's peaceful. Honestly, there's those peaceful moments on the lake that's really hard to find on Lanier, especially in the summertime or late spring, early fall. And I wouldn't say the fishing can be just as tough. You hear that, oh, well, you're fishing a pond. Well, it's not really a pond, and it's not as easy as, some of my big lake buddies give me a hard time about it because I don't fish. I still do fish some big lake tournaments from time to time. But, it's really the same thing, and you get a lot of opportunities to fish different water in a smaller area. You've got, the sky's the limit. You can, a lot of small lakes within a close driving distance that are completely different.
Blake?
Yeah, Chris touched on a lot of that I would have said. Biggest thing is from May until about mid-September, big lakes, you can forget fishing in tournaments. And, that's, a lot of people like pretty weather to fish, and that's half your season right there. These smaller reservoirs, you can fish all year long because you don't have the pleasure boaters and all that you do on the big lakes. I grew up fishing in electric stuff. My first tournament with Dad was in electric, so I guess it's kind of bred into me, I guess. But I still fish big boat stuff. I still enjoy fishing big boat stuff. I think some of y'all know I'd fish for University of Georgia there for a couple of months when I was on the team, and so I got some experience big boat stuff too, and it's got its place. I think we all could agree, whether it's in a pond or the biggest lake in the States, it's still fishing. You still gotta figure them out. There's talent wherever you go as far as figuring the fish out that day, no matter where you're at. A lot of the big boat guys, they get humbled when they come down and fish a lot of these small lakes because it makes you hone in on your skills a lot. And what I mean by that, I'm not saying that you can't, every time you go to a big lake, you're going to catch fish. That's not true either. But a lot of your power fishing techniques that work on big lakes 12 months out of the year, you really have to slow down and become more of a finesse fisherman on these smaller lakes because, let's be honest, the sport is growing. We've got a lot more anglers on the water now than we ever have, a lot more tournament trails in the state than we ever had. These lakes are having tournaments every weekend from different trails. You know, and that's put a, you know, on lakes down here where I'm at, and I'm sure Gayton could and Merritt could answer for lakes up that way. You can tell. You can just look at the weights in these weigh-ins, and you know, I can remember fishing a lot of these lakes, and you know, your top 5 boats would have anywhere between 12 and 20 pounds. You know, about every tournament, about every lake you went to, and now it's, you know, you have a 12-pound bag, you've had a good day on any lake, you know, any of these smaller reservoirs here in Georgia. Now you can blame that on pressure. You can blame it on, you know, maybe DNR not doing as much as, you know, other states DNR as far as putting money back into these smaller lakes. But, you know, it's got its pros and cons, just like the big lakes do.
But Gayton, you probably agree to this. So you run in a club as well. I mean, us in SWAT, we kind of mimic the same thing. Seeing COVID changed a lot too. People were out on the water a lot more, fishing a lot more, pleasure fishing a lot more. I think it was around that time frame. You know, we done the same thing. We dropped back in our club. When we first started SWAT, it was, you know, every other weekend we was on the water somewhere, and that was fine for quite a few years. But we started seeing that trend, more clubs around, everything else. Gayton, you'd agree with it too, dropping it down to where you're only fishing 6 tournaments out of a year. Then you have your classic stuff. I feel like that does help in all the fisheries that we're at. Granted, I think y'all fish some of the big lakes. We fish some of the big lakes now, just because of that pressure on these smaller lakes. We don't want to just keep beating it up over and over and over.
Yeah, I know. You know, just talking to Aaron, you know, with you mentioned COVID, there was a lot of days, and talking to Mark Cochran up at Latham, there was a lot of days when all that first hit, most people were at home, and their overflow parking would be full, 3 or 4 days out of the week. So that's huge. It doesn't take, especially. So I'm gonna throw another curveball into that, but I also believe that the forward-facing sonar has hurt that in a lot of ways. There was you're throwing at fish that would have never got thrown at, in years past before the forward-facing sonar. You're catching fish in places that were frankly never fished. I mean, open water, suspended fish over, 80.
Oh, he'll be right back. It's been kicking out and then coming back.
And he's gone.
He'll be right back.
Sorry. But 80 or 90 feet, work keeps calling me, but 80 or 90 feet of water and catching and, actively able to catch fish out deep.
If you need to take it, if it's a 911 call, we can go to a commercial for a second.
No, we're good.
So Michael Bostick said this, talking about electric only lakes and stuff like that. That is one benefit you don't have to mess with. Don't have to worry about them jet skiers out there, but give it time, and you probably will.
Jet ski.
Give it time.
I'm waiting. E-Propulsion just came out with that electric inboard. I'm waiting for somebody to mess around with one of those.
So, okay, asking. Right here's 2 men. It's very edge forward, competitive. Do y'all see ourselves ever wanting to try to go to an inboard, getting that, 20 and 40, ain't it? It's what they've got.
I think they got it all up to a 50 now.
Would y'all ever see yourselves looking at trying to go that route for inboard just to get a better edge?
I don't know. I don't know what all that would consist of. Some of the guys on here have spent a lot of time and effort in my rig, and I don't know that I want to go through that process again.
We don't either.
It ain't nothing but a transom. You can just take it out.
Yeah.
Man,
I don't know. I'm sure it's got its place, and I know E-Propulsion is They're real proud of that product, and I've heard several of them mention, where I think it's real big with sailboats and stuff overseas, and they're having a real good turnout with it. For what we do, I'm not saying that somebody couldn't, and that may be the route the whole industry goes towards, later on. But I guess I'm just traditional. It would be weird to look at a boat without a motor on the back.
What do you think, Chris?
I don't know. I'm always tinkering, so that's I don't know. Possibly. I would like to see it, set up with something like what we fish out of, and then and then possibly go from there. I don't know. It's interesting. I just think of it as a river boat. You got the inboard, the jet boats and stuff, and that'd be a game changer for shallow water fishing for sure. Getting back into some places that maybe other boats couldn't get.
Ryan, Chris, do y'all know the specs on that the inboards yet?
I don't. I just saw that one ad they put out on social media. Aside from that, I haven't seen much about it.
So I was just curious on the voltage, what it was.
I think it's 96.
We just found out about it not too long ago because it's not really in the bass fishing or like fishing type industry. It's more in the big sailboats, big barges, and they're moving these humongous boats with electric power. So,
but I have seen this. Like, I don't know if Gayton or Blake, if y'all have seen it or not. There's YouTube videos out there where folks have compared like the jet driven styles comparable to prop driven, and to me, it kind of seems like the jet driven might have a little bit of an edge forward for efficiency and. I don't know. It's intrigued me a lot recently seeing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, technology ain't gonna do nothing but they're gonna keep improving, and like I said, that may be where the future's at.
So while they're looking this up, Chris Gayton.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, what is something left that you're wanting to do to upgrade on your boat?
That's a hard question. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The only thing that I can think of and that I've kind of tossed around the idea of, or maybe looking at designing, especially when I'm fishing by myself, is maybe putting a steering system towards the front of the boat and getting my weight forward. I would really like to go to something that maybe is more like a traditional bass boat where you can sit down, you have a graph at the console, and then you also have your two graphs up front. Just for really more or less for mapping purposes and building maps for lakes and different things. I don't know. That's a tough question. There's a lot of opportunities out there, but also, changing the carpet. We talked about the carpet in the boat, changing the carpet out and getting the guys down there to put some what is it, the sea foam? Is that or sea deck? Sea deck.
Yep.
Sea deck. Sea foam. Sea foam's a motor additive, but sea deck. So yeah, but
we got
different. Yeah.
So
Kerry was showing me his boat. Y'all knocked it out of the park, man.
Kerry does have an awesome setup.
He's looking up the specs on it. Did it say the weight on it?
So Michael's on to ask, compared to the 6.0 with the battery pack, weight differences. I don't know if it's got everything posted with it about it. So
they're all 96 volt, but some of them are water cooled.
Yeah.
Yes. So you have three different series. You have an I-10, an I, 20,
20
and
and 30.
40. And
40.
your I-10 is air cooled. Your I-20 and I-40 are water cooled.
Marco.
Air cooling is optional on those two. All 1,500 RPMs, but they don't really have any other. I
Have a
mean,
lot of
weight
specs on it.
43 kilograms, 45 kilograms, 75 kilograms. So you got a calculator right now. But
I could put that in America units.
yeah, let's see. They're really pushing the GPS modular thing on these, so 4G and
Yeah.
I don't really know. We'll get some more information on these though.
Maybe-
Hopefully have that.
Maybe they'll be real sweet and send me one to play with.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
45 kilograms is 99 pounds.
Okay.
99
Good bit
pounds.
heavier,
Yeah.
but I mean,
And
that's
just
without the
short.
battery, just the motor.
But
Well,
that's
you-
both.
E-propulsion's weigh about what, 60, 70, ain't it?
67, 70. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Because I know other competitors out there is about 100 pounds, so it's not too bad.
Well, I got, speaking of all the boat upgrades and stuff, this is a question I came up with last week. I want to ask both of y'all, and this is more for us. But as tournament anglers, Blake and Chris, where do y'all see improvements that need to be made in the aftermarket for supporting not only the boat builds, but for tournament-based products that would help y'all be better tournament anglers?
Because like here's a good idea behind that is your time and is more valuable on the water than say those guys with the gas outboards, right? So
Right.
thing off the top of your head that would make your day more efficient.
Well, we've talked about this, Merrick, several times. How big are we going to go? Are we going to have 100 horsepower electric motors on these lakes to where, you get up on plane and you're at your spot in 2 minutes, and then you can be at the other end of the lake in 2 or 3, 10 minutes or whatever. Where's the limit going to be? Are they going to start outlawing horsepower regulations, which would probably be like a voltage regulation with electric? That's what kind of scares me. I'm not looking to get any bigger than what I am now, but if that day ever come, I don't want to have, $10,000 wrapped up in a motor that I can't use, 5 years from now. And that's time is important, but that also takes kind of what we do out of it too. You're really no different at that point than fishing big stuff. But I guess it's just all in the way you look at it and what you're wanting out of it. We do have several guys that have motors that are a good bit bigger than mine and Chris's. They go a lot faster in the teens and in the 20s, and they're using it and are successful with it. They're getting to one end of the lake. They're fishing the whole lake in one day, to where me and Chris may not can cover but half the lake in one day. In a timely manner. We can probably get to it, but the time that we spend running is the time they're catching fish. So, where's the limit? I don't know. And then you look at electronics, just like what Chris was saying earlier, you got these big screens where you can see, the tails, the mouths, the eyes. Where's the limit on that? Are we going to be able to see the color of the worm in 5 years that you're throwing? I mean, I think it can be done? Absolutely. But where's the limits? I don't know.
So for me, I would agree with Blake on every bit of that. One thing that I don't think will change, and also one thing that I think is way underestimated, we talked about it a little bit earlier, is shaving weight. So for me, and I know you guys can make a big difference in that as well with boat builds and stuff. And it's the weight savings. I've just, I've even went to the point of when I'm out there by myself, adding weight and knowing exactly what I'm adding and seeing the speed differences. And a little bit of weight goes a long ways. And it's that's one thing that I think that's going to be your biggest advantage in most situations. It could also be a disadvantage when you got a higher wind situation where, these when you get the boat so light, they're sitting on top of the water. I know my boat has really high sides on it, and wind, moves it around a good bit. But I think I can, that's something you can always deal with, and I really believe, I don't know how you would capture this, but how much of a difference is it making in the ability? You're not pushing as much water when you're sitting high in the water or higher in the water. How much are you saving on your batteries? That's one thing I don't know how you would capture that information, but I'm sure, a boat sitting, further out of the water, the least amount of resistance is going to give you the greatest battery savings. You're going to be able to move the fastest, and also your wear and tear just on your trailer and everything else.
Y'all got any wants or needs from the aftermarket for your boat? Like, you ever been in your boat and we're like, man, I wish this did X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't because nobody makes that. The one that everybody keeps bringing up, and I'll go ahead and throw this out there because we talked about it on the last one, is a more effective way to run the forward-facing sonars. Everything that's out there, everybody's got something that they don't like about it. Either put it on the trolling motor, and then you got to move the trolling motor in order to use it, or they got the one that's real fancy with the little remote control, but it's like $250 million. And then you got the kind that are on the arms and stuff, and some people like them, some people don't, but it's just another thing that's in your way up on the front of the boat. So that's one of the things that we've heard frequently. But anything that y'all come to mind, you ever been holding something in your boat and like, man, I wish I had a place to put this? Or
other than boat build outs, no, not really. For me, I've gotten so in tune with my foot movement, I don't even look at where I'm casting. A prime example of that, I think a couple of years ago, I almost threw a bait in a boat that was passing. But I'm literally looking at the screen a lot of times and just casting, and Aaron will make fun of me. I'll throw back over my shoulder, or whichever way the trolling motor. I just know my foot position. I've done it to the point now where I know where my foot position is. I know where my trolling motor is looking, and I'm just making that cast. But so that works.
And it ain't that you're even looking at your arrow. You can actually run your foot, and you can feel like it's right here, up, and then you just throw.
My eyes, when I'm on a bite, a specific bite. It's not every time, and don't get me wrong. But there is a time and a place where that forward-facing sonar is really helpful. And when you get on that bite, yeah, my eyes never leave the screen. But, for me, it's in the boat build out. There's several things on my boat that I would like to change. And I'll probably be in touch with you all about that pretty soon. So,
well, Chris,
cat out of the bag on something that we're working on now, but I want both y'all's opinion on this. All three of y'all, since all three of y'all tournament fish, how would you feel if you didn't have to look down at the floor to look at your graphs anymore? Well, how would you put it up a little bit higher to where it was more?
That's
peripheral,
that is
the eye level.
That's definitely an advantage. The only disadvantage of that is when you've got a fish on and he goes a way that you don't want him to go, and you got that graph in front of you, or you accidentally bump it, or you sling a lead off the side of it and bust the screen. But I get it. You can do that with it on the floor or 3 foot up. Me personally, I've never wanted it up. It's kind of like power poles in the back of the boat. They're great until you hook a 5-pounder and you have to fight it around the back motor and power poles and everything else. And then you lose a fish and it costs you a tournament, So
I think it's
and
angler.
I've had that happen before.
I think it's angler preference too, because Gayton, you remember it back when I used to have the GoPro on the front with that little sticking up right there in front of me, and I'd catch a fish and I'd have to always every time go around it. Now I don't want the height there. I think a retractable, to where it can maybe go down into the underneath the decking if you want to take it back and forth either way, have it vertical or have it lowered down.
That's what y'all need to make, Chris. Or
We're working on it. Don't let the cat out of the bag. I'm just asking opinions.
Retractable is huge, and that's, like I say, there's a time and a place for everything. There's a time and a place where I would want that graph up, but there's also a time, in the spring of the year when you're side arming under bushes on the bank and different things that I don't want that graph up. But
I think here's a good thing, Chris. Backing up to a minute ago, the previous question, Chris actually Gayton already answered that question about what technology or something you could see to change. You'd mentioned about with like forward-facing sonar and how fish now have gotten so you can take your Ghost trolling motor or any of the trolling motors, and it gives that whine sound when it's turning or when it's pinging. How about that? Maybe making something that I wouldn't say basically eliminates that sound, but maybe something that might drown that sound out, or just something that would be a cool factor. You kind of said that earlier.
Yeah, reducing the the sound underwater, or however you would do that. I don't even know how you would go about that, but that would be huge.
Well, the Crave went crazy for hydro waves. A lot of people's got them on the boat. Whether or not that one audible sound might make it a little bit differently. It's just a thought. You kind of did say that, and I have noticed it. I ain't been running that forward facing that long, but you can see a big difference when those fish know that what it is. You can forget it.
Merrick, I think you've got a good picture. I think I sent you a picture too of us on actually Blue Ridge. I fished it twice, and one of the pictures is me looking, Aaron standing behind me, and that's pretty much, this is. I just got. Like I say, I had back surgery last year, but 90% of my days hunched over looking at the graph when that's in play, and it's not always the case, but there is a time and a place. I would say probably 30 to 40% of the year where that is definitely my eyes never leave that screen.
Okay. So I got a fun question for both y'all.
Okay.
So let's just say Merrick loses his mind one day. He says, all right, TEC has a new rule. You only get to fish one bait all day long. Whole tournament. You only get one. What are y'all bringing?
Jig.
G.
Totally different answers from the last two.
I want to be definitive. Not, particular jig, like a jig and pig versus not a swim jig.
Only get one.
Yeah, just a standard
G. Not no swim jig, just a regular
style jig.
Football, whatever you want to call it.
Jig.
Interesting.
Yep. That's
I think that'd be fun. Another one we talked about last 2 weeks, y'all have talked about it is doing a no electronics tournament or no electronics.
Yeah. It'd be an interesting twist for sure.
My co-angler would probably like me a little more if we did that.
Yeah.
So do y'all see challenges with forward facing sonar having two people on the front deck at the same time fishing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times, and Aaron knows. He stands at the back. I mean, when I am in that mode, he's as far. Now there is a time and a place where he'll be up there with me, but when fish are scattered and they're here and there, and you're looking for those key bites, and they're in a little bit deeper water, you know, I apologize to him all the time for casting over his line or casting at a fish that may be behind the boat. And he's like, "Oh, you're good. You're good." It's I don't know. That's a battle that I struggle with that a lot. Just feeling like that, I'm kind of overtaking his area, whatever you may call it.
Yeah, you are overtaken to an extent, but
Yeah.
When you see the results and you know that the only way you're going to catch those fish is due to the sonar, the co-angler he tends not to have a problem with it when you're setting the hook. And it's not a two-person deal. For me, it hadn't been. I mean, it's hard for two people to use a forward-facing sonar effectively. You can definitely scare fish a lot of times if you have two baits and down there right side by side. I mean, a lot of times with my experience, it makes things worse. So a lot of times we'll just trade out. You make a cast, I make a cast. But I try to put the boat in an area that maybe I'm doing that deal up front if it's working, and then he's fishing something totally different in the back, but he's catching fish too. I mean, that's when you have your good days, is when you're both catching fish.
That's right.
So, and a lot of times that don't happen, but a lot of times it does. And there's been times where I've been fooled around with small fish up front, and the man in the back of the boat's putting the big ones in. So,
yeah, and one more thing, just to expand on that a little bit, is what amazes me is the subtle differences. That he was talking about two baits near a fish. A lot of times will spook it, and just the subtle differences, whether it's the difference in just how you're moving your bait, or how you're approaching that fish with a bait, or
line size.
Yeah. I mean, just the smallest of things that makes a huge difference.
Now here's a question that kind of goes along with the question that Matt's asking. I think Merritt's got it up on the screen now about the difference when it's in electric lakes versus some of the big ones. Do y'all think that the fish are more spooky in some of these smaller reservoirs than they are versus the big lakes? Do y'all see that?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because you got so much pressure. I mean, you can.
I'm sure every hard labor can tell you what was on sale at Bass Pro Shop last weekend.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, it really is. It's 5 years ago, Latham. I keep going back to Latham. It's my home lake. 5-6 years ago, the schooling bite at Latham was so much better. Now it's hard to get a top water bite even when the fish are schooling. I can't tell you how many times I pull different baits through fish actively schooling, and they become so keyed in on one bait. I mean, they'll come up. It's not a big wad of fish coming up that are just constantly schooling anymore. It's one fish comes up, he targets one bait. You're pulling your bait through there, top water bait, and nothing. And 5-6 years ago, you was getting slammed. I mean, if you lost one, you'd hook up again on the way to the boat.
So that's why I think electric fishing is so much more detailed than maybe big lakes, because it may be, a difference between a 1/8 ounce and a 3/16 ounce. And for whatever reason, they will not bite that size ounce, jig or shaky head, or, it may be a certain color, and it may be very close. You may have two baits that that one may have a streak of blue in it that's a little brighter. And on these smaller lakes, it's so detailed. Now you go to some of these bigger lakes, those fish, it may be a brown jig, but it don't matter if it's brown, if it's purple, if it's brown with black, or they're gonna eat it. But on these smaller lakes, it's a very detailed presentation and lure selection that makes it. Sometimes it drives me crazy. I mean, you go through, you'll try a worm and you won't get bit on it, but then you'll try a different color that may have a different bottom half to it, and it's like you flipped on a light switch. And I don't see that as much on big lakes as I do smaller lakes. I think that's a challenge that nobody really talks about as much in the smaller reservoirs, that due to the pressure, that it becomes way more detailed than what people realize.
Now, kind of like what Matt's asking, is there a big difference in the smaller electric reservoirs versus the bigger lakes in anything like water clarity or temperature changes or structure or the way that they're laid out? Anything that you two have noticed that's a big difference?
For me, I mean, no. So it's there. I know.
I think maybe like water temperature.
Yeah.
I don't know about color and structure. I think you got the same structure and color on big lakes as you do small lakes, but a degree temperature on one end of a small lake difference than the other end. I have seen it where that's, they'll bite on one end of the lake and they won't touch anything on the other end, and it could be a 1 degree literally difference. Big lakes, if there's a 5 degree difference, yeah, but usually on bigger lakes, if it's a couple of degrees, it don't make a lot of difference.
I want to touch on his question, and this is my opinion, my thought. And Gayton, you've probably had Blake, you fished there a little bit. Latham, for example. So a lot of these lakes in Georgia were built for one primary purpose, and that's for water supply, future demands, future needs for distribution of water, drinking water. Latham, when it was first built, you're looking at visibility back in the early 2000s. You was getting 20-foot deep visibilities. I'm not a biologist. I'm far from having good grades for science when I was a kid growing up, but when you have clarity that's that deep, the vegetation that's in Latham, I do feel like these electric only lakes, and not even electric only lakes, I think it has to do more with the region based on like soil conditions and everything else. Yes, there's grass, there's vegetation in the southern lakes, but that vegetation that's down south, like towards Blake's neck of the woods of hard labor, is different vegetation that's up here in the northern lakes, mountainous lakes. You get a lot more clear water. That vegetation is going to be a lot deeper than what it would be, say, which I know the lakes ain't as deep down south, but you're going to have most of your vegetation closer because your sunlight that penetrates cleaner water is going to have vegetation deeper, to where if it's muddier water, your vegetation is going to be shallower just because the sunlight cannot penetrate through it. If you were to go to Lake Burton, I mean, you could find grass probably 30, 40 foot. I mean, go to Blue Ridge. I'm going to tell you right now, Gayton, you've probably seen it. I mean, there's a few places you can find some vegetation in Blue Ridge. It's sparse, and that's mostly, I think, to do because of like rocks and stuff. It all depends a lot of different variables to the lake, my opinion.
Yeah. So I've only been on Blue Ridge twice, but it's I think they all pretty much, as far as comparing a big lake to one of the smaller lakes, I mean, typically you would go to the same areas to find the same type comparable structures. I mean, you're going to go to the dam, you're going to find your clear water, your deeper water. You're going to go up creeks, you're going to find your stained water, your shallower water, and personally, I mean, if you can find that, that's a little bit of stain, and especially if there's some largemouths in the area, it's always a fun bite.
Can be monumental, right?
It can be.
So I got some personal questions for you guys. We're gonna get real deep in here. Y'all got any weird pre-tournament rituals or superstitions? You got some funky underwear that you wear every time, or you got to go to the same biscuit joint every morning? Like, oh,
Eric, did you put him up to this?
No, but I'm wanting to ask you: is it still the same pair?
Yes.
Oh,
And it's but I only wear these for tournaments per se. But the first TEC, all the guys gave me a hard time. I walked out and I had a pair of boxer briefs on. It was they're purple with green polka dots, like Barney. Like Barney. So they all give me a hard time about it. And,
no wonder Aaron didn't want to be on here tonight.
Yeah. Oh man, but it's just for classics and the TEC or something big. I mean, it's that's the only time they're pulled out, used.
honeymoon. I mean, anniversaries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I need to stop right there. What?
what about you, Blake? You got anything weird you do before?
No, I don't.
Come on, man. You can beat the.
I don't. My superstition or whatever you want to call it, I'll say a prayer before the tournament, and that's about it.
Okay. So I want both of y'all to kind of grade yourselves as tournament anglers here for a second. I want to know, what is the one thing that you feel you need to get better at as a tournament angler? You got a lure that you're not familiar with, or a technique, or is there something you've always struggled with?
Well, you're always looking for new techniques, and for me, try to broaden my spectrum as far as having more tools and more techniques to catch fish in different situations. I think it's a sport that you have to, just like we've talked about forward-facing sonar. You have to adapt, and because the fishing adapts. I mean, I can't go back to some of these lakes that I've been to 15 years ago and throw the same stuff that I used to throw. I've had to adapt, throughout the years with lures and techniques that's changed my style of fishing. Now, some things always will be your staples, like jig fishing, but with this pressure, like we've talked about, I've had to redo my whole tackle and my setups these last couple of years because I can't catch them as much on power fishing lures that I had in the past. I can remember a day where I could take a chrome rattle trap to every lake that we fished and catch them everywhere we went. Now if you catch fish on a rattle trap, you need to consider yourself lucky because it don't happen as much. Due to pressure or whatever you want to call it. But you have to adapt. You have to change. If not, you'll get left behind.
I agree. I'm always. I mean, Blake said it really well. It's for me. It's really more about getting out of my comfort zone. I love to jig fish, and stepping, trying new things, thinking outside the box, working. I mean, it just simply, it's taking the same bait and trying new techniques too. That's a lot of times, like we're talking about, when you are using your forward-facing sonar and those little differences, I think that matters more than we know, even when it's not that type of bite. And and just trying different retrieval techniques and stuff like that. That's the hardest thing for me. If I know I can catch them one way, it's hard for me to go out there and step outside the box and try something new. And that's something I really need to work on. I mean, I think we all could. Honestly, it's that's the hardest thing.
What's your favorite body of water to fish? You got a favorite lake or favorite river or somewhere?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I honestly, I mean, I like. There's several of them. It's hard for me to name a specific.
What's your least favorite lake to fish?
I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback for this, but probably Rocky. I know. See, I knew that. I knew I was going to get that face. To me, I mean, Rocky's a great lake. But it's either on or it's off. One of the two.
Rocky's a good lake because it's got big fish in it.
That's right.
I mean, it's not an angler's paradise when you pull up and back your boat in the water and make a couple of casts. I mean, it's when you hook one and it's 10 pounds. I mean, that's what makes it a good lake.
That's right. And as far as general fishing, now Rocky's probably on the opposite side of that. To go catch a big fish, that's a great lake to go catch a big fish. But generally speaking, just fishing, that's probably my least favorite, just because, like I say, it's either on or it's off. And when it's off, you can go all day with a bite or two, and that'd be it. And that's grinding. I mean, grinding. I think like that. I think the Electric Elites, you at the very end of the day, and y'all were I know y'all were grinding.
Yeah, I look like a duck out there swimming around, going left to right. I mean, I'm chasing these fish, and you throw everything you got at them, and then at the end of the day, the last 10 minutes, this one fish decides to bite, and it was a 6.5, 7 pounder.
Yeah.
Saved our season, just that one fish.
Yep.
Sorry, Simmons. I didn't mean to take that question and spin it around backwards. I just knew it's a lot easier to name off a lake that's not his favorite, because there's just
Eric look a little offended that you don't like Rocky Mountain.
I was shocked. I was shocked, but it makes a perfect sense. I mean, I think it goes into the pressure too. We was talking about that earlier. You get those fish that's in, they're 2 bowls. Rocky Mountain is 2 bowls, and you could probably be sitting at the boat ramp and turn your forward-facing sonar, and if they're sitting at the dam on either side, depending on which side you're on, they probably are hearing something pinging.
Yeah,
because it's that small of lakes.
Now, that's another lake too, though, that can be the best lake you've ever fished too. I mean, that's just I have a love-hate relationship with it, and that's it. It's just, if you pull up on the right school at the right time, you can catch a lot of weight really quickly. But you can also grind a day out and not get a bite, or maybe 1 or 2 fish.
So going back to favorite, Gayton, you working where you work. I know your work has some ponds on some of the. Okay. Yeah. So that may be some of his favorites. You know what I mean? Some of those private.
No, so I'll be honest with you. They do. So Southern Company owns a lot of lakes that really only Southern Company employees can fish. And I'll be honest with you, though, Merrick, I haven't fished many of them. I know some people that do, and they catch them. It's just, for me, I really try to focus on, getting the edge on one of the lakes that may be on an upcoming schedule, and don't spend the time that I should be just getting back to the basics, really having fun. But
what about you, Blake? Do you have a favorite?
I don't. Varner used to be my favorite. It's coming back. It's a lot of pressure that Varner had has transferred to Hard Labor Creek, and I think that's the reason you're seeing a lot of Hard Labor Creek's numbers fall off the last year and a half. And Varner's actually coming back a little bit, but I used to love fishing Stone Mountain. We fished that for years. It was a really, really good lake. Lake Lucas is a good one. It's seasonal though too. My least favorite would probably be Juliet. For whatever reason, I've struggled down at Juliet over the years. Out of the many times that we've been down there, it's just been, I don't know. You have to run a lot of spots, and they're not as grouped up maybe as they used to be. And that goes again with bigger motors and being able to run point A, point B quicker. That's a lake you definitely want to be able to run and gun. Because I don't think, other than just a handful of guys, I know that just kind of go to one area and stick with it and do well on that body of water.
So here's a question for both of y'all. Jonathan Comby is asking, do y'all find catching suspended fish or fish holding to the bottom easier to catch with forward-facing sonar?
I'd say probably on the bottom, probably a little harder, because sometimes those fish will get on the bottom, and if they don't move, it's hard to see them and hard to make them bite. I don't see an advantage there when they are hugging real tight to the bottom. Other than seeing them maybe come up to know that there's more there. But that goes back to just old school dragging, just fishing. Your forward facing sonar shines when you're chasing packs of fish and suspended fish that you can see, like we've talked about, that you would never see without it. But those bottom fish, you just go back to just fishing.
Yep, I would agree 100%. Now, and Blake kind of touched on this too, but I've seen it too, where you do find what you think's one fish on the bottom. You hook a fish or hook what you think is that fish, and you pull 20 fish off the bottom. But again, you can see that with, well, you'd have to be vertical fishing to see it with, your standard sonar or whatever. But it's, I would agree with Blake on that 100%. I mean, it really shines on your suspended fish and those schools, those active feeding schools that you're chasing.
What's y'all's PB?
Mine's 1273.
Mine's a hair of 12.
Spotted bass? What's y'all's PB?
Spotted bass is 602.
I think a 502 is my biggest spot.
Smallmouth?
Like 2 pounds.
Two and a quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 pounds. I caught one at Lake Notley years ago. And several with it. We were vertically fishing and didn't get any more to eat, but that's the one and only smallmouth I've ever caught.
Yeah, mine was at Lake Wheeler in Alabama. I was practicing for a UGA tournament, and I was in like 35 foot of water, and the fish hit a jig, and I remember setting the hook, and it was like a missile. It comes straight up out of the water, like a brown football. It was a little over. It was about 2.25. But some of the hardest fighting fish, they're up there with the redfish and some of the strongest fighting fish in the world.
Yeah.
That 2-pounders for both of y'all probably fought as good as y'all's 5-pound spot per
Yeah.
PB.
It did. So I wish Aaron was on here for this because he's made a couple trips up to Michigan and spent weeks up there fishing. I think they caught like 102 or 103 smallmouths one day, and they crushed them. A couple trips they've been up there. I mean, he's got some good stories and some good pictures.
Y'all got any other hobbies outside of fishing, or y'all stay so busy with fishing you ain't got time to do nothing else? I see Chris got to be up there on the wall.
There's so I got a little bow shop in my basement, building tackle a little bit here and there, but deer hunting and my daughter, I'm fortunate. She's really she's put in a lot of sits with me this year. She's 15 years old. She'll be 16 in February. My youngest daughter, and man, I've been blessed with that because she was determined. She shot under her first buck this year, and then had bad luck finding another one, and then it's all that's her crossbow here, but she finally got it done on a really nice 9-pointer, and I've enjoyed that as much as anything. So almost to the point where I have not been on the water since our EBO Classic in November, second week in November.
You going through withdrawals yet?
I am. This is making me think more and more about it. I didn't deer hunt for several years when I got out of big lake fishing and went into saltwater fishing and duck hunting. I got away from deer hunting and freshwater fishing for a while, and I've just really enjoyed my quiet and peaceful times with reflecting on life and just being able to really sit back and relax and think about, honestly, I mean, how blessed I've been over the years at some of the stuff I've been able to do and enjoy.
What you, Blake?
It'd be deer hunting. Usually from, season opener in September to, end of November, I'm hunting. That's kind of my little break from fishing. When you fish all year long, you as the older I get, the more I enjoy that little break, and kind of gives us, when you fish every weekend, you get burnt out a little bit, so it's a good time to go hunting and relax in the woods, and I'm probably as passionate about it as I am fishing. But that's the only two hobbies I'm allowed to have. So I can't have any more.
And I tell you though, you got those girls at home. It's going to be. I know you're looking forward to the times that I just spoke about too. But they grow up in a hurry.
That's right.
And I'm 15 years old. She'll be 16 and in her vehicle, and that's, like I say, that's my youngest daughter, and she's like I say, blessed to be able to spend those times with her, because most of the time, kids they want to be hanging out with kids and running around. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Blake, did you kill you a big Bambi yet?
I shot one back during October. I missed the big one I was after. Missed him, and I've seen him. Me and him been playing cat and mouse all year. I've been trying to kill him with a bow, and he'd show up close enough for me to kill him, but I'd have a limb in the way, or he'd turn around and walk the way he come. I did kill a pretty 10-pointer, but not the one that I was after. Sometimes you have to settle for maybe that second or third place guy instead of that first one.
It is a really nice deer, though.
I appreciate it. Yours was too. Sure was.
Do
They're
either,
hard. They're hard. They are hard and smart like these fish.
Yes.
do either of y'all enjoy doing any other kind of fishing other than just bass fishing? I know you do, Chris. You do saltwater and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I enjoy doing saltwater. I've just kind of last couple of years kind of dug into it a little bit, but red fishing and even fishing from the shore, not knowing what you got on the end of the line, that's a pretty cool feeling.
So me too. I enjoy that. I enjoy crappie fishing. I enjoy every year we take the last few years we've been going down to St. George Island. I don't do as much offshore fishing as I used to, but we go down to St. George Island. We'll do some bay fishing, wade fishing, and kayak fishing, and then during the day, we still got some space. Well, I don't need to talk about it too much. The space will quickly dissipate, but do some beach fishing, catching pompano, and we catch trout, redfish, and flounder, all from the beach, and occasional sharks and stuff. But I enjoy that as well.
Very cool. You got any questions?
Yeah, Ryan, do you got any questions?
I don't actually. No.
So let's hear about Blue Ridge. And just guys, pause for a brief moment. If you got questions, I know we've been rolling now for about an hour and 45 minutes. Feel free, fire away. We're going to kind of wrap this up here soon, so that way these men, we ain't keeping them up too late. So feel free, fire away before we take and conclude it. But Blue Ridge, let's get back on the topic for the TEC. I know Gayton, you and Aaron, very, very well known around with anglers that spotted bass and y'all can target those fish very, very well. Y'all have already seen Blue Ridge, fished it. I think another club prior had fished it, but what's your whole take with going to Blue Ridge so far? Thoughts?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. We fished it twice, both with EBO. I'm sorry, one with EBO and one with North Georgia John Boat Anglers. And both times it turned out we were blessed both tournaments, and had good days on the water. But I mean, there's some really nice spots, but I think I don't know, largemouth could also play. You get a couple largemouth bite. I don't know. The weather's going to determine a lot of what could or could not happen in the coming months, or in the coming weeks. I shouldn't say months. We're almost there.
We are.
But we've been getting a lot of rain. That's all I'll say about that. But we've also, I don't know what these temperatures are going to do. I know, it can fish similar to Lanier in a lot of ways, which is my home, big lake. But I think you'll see fish caught in every way, shape, and form, honestly. I mean, I think you'll get some moving bait bites. I think you'll get some ditch fish. You'll get some shallow fish. It's going to be, I think it's going to come down to putting the 5 key bites together, or 2 or 3 key bites and 5 fish. Whether that be a big, couple 4-pound spots or a couple 4-pound largemouth, or whatever the case may be. I'm going to be interested to see too if there's any of the good smallmouth. There's still some good smallmouth in the lake. They're very few and far between from what I've been able to, from what I've been told, or I haven't caught one there, but I know not very many years ago there was a lot of big smallmouth, and the spot seemed to have kind of taken over. But yeah, I think it's just going to be, a couple key bites and a couple big fish and a good limit.
You fished it in the summer months from those other two tournaments, right? Post spawn.
One time in the summer, one time was a wintertime deal, or a late fall deal.
Gotcha. Blake, have you been on Blue Ridge before?
No, I've seen it from the shore, but I've never fished it. So I'm going with a open mind, and I'm gonna treat it like I do most new lakes, and just break it down and see what's going on. I know it's a highland, reservoir, and I'll treat it like that and go from there. I'm excited though. I've heard a lot of good things about it. It looks to have a little bit of everything as far as rivers and creeks and deep clear water and rock maybe, and so I'm excited to fish it.
So one thing I'll say about it too, I mean, where we're going out of, I've been told, I've never fished that area, but there's several that marina and several places close to the marina can, really produce some good bags. So I don't know what our strategy will be, whether it be, electric boat tournaments kind of throw. I don't know. There's going to be, I think you'll see several boats hang close. We may venture out a little bit and kind of hit some of the areas that we may have hit, in that fall tournament. It'll be interesting.
Electric does take, and it's a mind game. People don't even understand. And I'm sure, Chris, you can speak for it. Blake, you can speak for it. Like, where are you going to go? Where are you going to start? Because it's going to be in the back of your mind of there are limitations. It's no different with a gas boat, gas motor. You're only limited to so much. So you're going to stick close. You're going to make a run. So, I do want to take and, mention something. We're here towards the tail end. The company that has come through and sponsored our Hooked Up Lives through with the TEC, and I want to mention something that's very unique, and I'm going to put their branding up here so everybody can take a look at it. Just Catch Bass. So at the very beginning of this interview, we started out by showing their website, justcatchbass.com. If you go to their website, so any of the anglers that are competing in the TEC, if they come through and they have caught the big fish for the tournament off of the Just Catch baits, somebody's going to be getting a free custom-made rod from PFD Fishing. So really cool factor. They've come through. They're sponsoring. Anglers are going to be receiving some bait packages, which is going to have some Just Catch Fish lures in it. But also, if you go through and you buy your own product through a Just Catch Fish, if you catch the big fish and land it on their lures, they're actually going to take and give a free custom rod. So really cool factor that they're doing. And they got some really cool colors, very unique. And I would almost say you probably send them the right, message through with them. I'd probably say they might hook you up with getting you some custom made paint colors of schemes that you like yourself personally. So I know, Chris, you're big on that customization. I remember that TEC tournament you fished. You was making spinner baits up right before that TEC event. So
night before the tournament.
Yep, I remember it. So I don't think we've had any more questions come in since. Chris, You let Aaron know that when he comes across that stage up there for the, or if you're watching Aaron, if you come across the stage up there at the TC, we have got a huge microphone that he can give a very, very lengthy speech when he comes across it. How's that sound?
Aaron is a man of few words.
I know.
Very, very smart man, though, and very, very good guy. He just, he's just Aaron, good guy, just quiet.
Yep. Reminds me a lot of my family. My family's the same way. But Chris and Aaron, congratulate both y'all men for being point champions on Electric Bass Opens. We look forward to seeing you coming up through there with a TEC. Maybe this guy knows something. I don't know. General Lee. Does he know something, Chris? I don't know.
General Lee. That's just a neat name he carries.
Oh, is it because of his goatee?
Yeah, he just
that's awesome.
He's a character.
Blake, thank you for coming in and joining us. Both y'all men talking about the e-propulsion products that y'all are running. The in-depth conversations we've had about it, the battery packs y'all are running and setups and stuff. Appreciate both y'all taking the time out tonight and joining us.
Thank you guys.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yep, and we'll be seeing y'all in just a few months, hopefully next month. So also to make the final announcement to it, and I'll be done for the show. January 21st, we will be having our Nights of Lights, the banquet. If you have not signed up for the meal tickets, go over to Bass Tech's page, GABassTech.com, and buy your meal tickets. I know it's the holidays and it's very difficult. I know from a house of three girls, I understand you flood a lot of money for Christmas and everything. I get it, but we're trying to get enough the meal tickets bought up. We're limiting only 200 meal tickets. So make sure if you're planning on attending that Nights of Light supper, Tiny Boat Nation Southeast, they're going to be representing there. It's going to be a fun night. We've got some live entertainment, some music, raffle tickets. If you're interested, talk through your club presidents that are out there. If you haven't bought those raffle tickets, they're $5 a piece, or 5 of them for $20. Blake Yarder is committed to it, giving away as far as donating a day of guided fishing, taking somebody out on the water, showing that e-propulsion product running itself. And I'm sure Blake can probably put you on some fish out there. And got another angler running e-propulsion as well that's doing the same thing. We've got – go to the website. It's got tons of stuff on it that we're going to be giving away as door prizes. You don't have to be present to win. But everybody understands this banquet – yes, we're meeting there. We're going to be talking about fishing and the anglers, kind of like Chris, what you was talking about earlier, Gayton, was the camaraderie between everybody. But more importantly, the cause is for the Shriners Hospital Organization. It has touched a lot of lives for many, many years, helping out kids and families that really stand in need. So 100% of our proceeds are going to the Shriners Hospital Organization. So we don't care to be for profit with Georgia Bass Tech. We just want to take and try to help, and all of us anglers have just a fun time. And if I remember right, Tiny Boat Nation Southeast is going to have the mini pontoon there. The giveaway is the very following weekend, right, guys?
Correct.
January 28th up at
Which you have to be present for to win as well. So go to tvnation.net and sign up to win that pontoon boat.
It's free.
Free to sign up. Just go on. You could win that pontoon. That thing is a slick setup. I mean, that would be, Chris, you talking about crappie fishing, and Blake with your girls and Chris with your kids. I mean, taking the whole family out with forward-facing sonar, that would be a crappie fishing machine.
We took it out the other day. It was nice. It's laid out real well.
Oh, man, that would be awesome. So appreciate each and every one of y'all tuning in tonight. Chris, Blake, Ryan, and Chris, thank y'all all.
Yeah. Good to see you guys.
Guys.
All right, that wraps up our Hooked Up Live. just to remind everybody, we'll be also going hooked up live this coming Thursday night. We had an issue from before we had to take in council, but this Thursday night we're going to be going hooked up live with Daniel Nikolai and Maverick Nikolai. And this team, if y'all have not been tuned in and seeing a lot of the results lately, they have been dominating. Maverick Nikolai is I believe if I've got the stats correctly on it, our second youth angler to qualify for the Georgia Bass Tech. So they're going to be at the Tiny Boat Nation Southeast shop, set up there. And for our interview, it'll be this Thursday night, 8:00. We appreciate each and every one of our sponsors. Again, get over there, show them some love. We appreciate it. Each and every one of them, get over there, check them out. We appreciate each and every one of y'all tuning in tonight, and we will see y'all this Thursday night at 8:00. God bless.